Everyone went straight for the alien bodies and the crash saucers, and they missed the part that actually matters. The strangest thing in the FBI's UFO files isn't a photo of a creature, it's what's sitting in the paperwork that nobody bothered to read. Section 1. The body that went to Germany. So let's start with the one everyone fixated on. Floating around alongside these files is a photo, a small, skinny, light-coloured humanoid with a bulbous head, and a story to match. The claim goes that it's a dead being recovered from a crash site near New Mexico, then shipped off to Germany and never seen again. It's a chilling image, I'll give it that. But here's what got missed in the rush to believe it. The same picture has a competing origin story, with skeptics tracing it back to an April Fool's prank years ago. Two versions of the truth, and no one agrees which is real. That tension that you genuinely can't tell is the actual story here, and it's a pattern you'll see again and again as we go. Section 2. Lights on the moon, because the next thing people skim past is far more interesting, and it's actually on the record. Across the Apollo missions, astronauts describe seeing things they couldn't explain. One account points to 3 lights in the distance over the lunar surface, arranged in a triangle where nothing should have been. Another set of captures shows several unidentified bluish points at once, some bar-shaped, some round, one oddly pill-like. On their own, any single sighting is easy to wave away, but it wasn't once. It happened repeatedly to different crews on different flights, and that repetition is exactly what makes it hard to dismiss. Section 3. What the astronauts actually said. And the transcripts are where it gets genuinely strange, not because of what was photographed, but because of how the astronauts described it in their own words. One Apollo crew talked about bright, jagged fragments tumbling past the window, comparing the scene to fireworks going off in the middle of space. Another well-known account describes a single, brighter object pacing them on the way to the moon. Something with a definite shape and a real, sizable dimension to it, close enough that they studied it through a monocular. Now, the official explanation for some of these is mundane. Debris, a discarded rocket stage catching sunlight. But read the words and you can hear them wrestling with it in real time, trying to make a strange thing fit a familiar box. That's the detail everyone scrolled past. Section 4. The 3 videos. The Pentagon admitted are real. Here's where I want to separate the noise from the signal, because this next part isn't a claim. It's confirmed. On April 27th, 2020, the US Department of Defense did something almost unthinkable. It officially released 3 military videos of unidentified objects and stated, on the record, that they were genuine and unexplained. 3 clips. The first, filmed in 2004 off the coast of California by Navy fighter pilots, shows a white, oblong object that earned the nickname the Tic Tac. It had no wings, no exhaust, no visible way of staying in the air. And according to the official report on the incident, it dropped from around 60,000 feet down to about 50 feet above the ocean in a matter of seconds. The other 2, recorded in 2015 off the East Coast, are just as hard to explain. One shows a dark, oval shape rotating on its own axis while pushing into a strong wind, a maneuver no known aircraft, drone or balloon can perform. These aren't anonymous uploads, they came through official channels, and that's what everyone missed while chasing creature photos. Section 5. The witnesses were the story. And here's the part that elevates those videos above every blurry photo in the files. The Tic Tac wasn't just caught on a single camera, it was tracked on radar, picked up by multiple sensors, and witnessed firsthand by trained Navy pilots with hundreds of hours in the air. One of them, the commander leading that flight, described watching the object react to his jet and then vanish. And he's spent years since saying plainly that he believes he encountered something not of this world. That's the difference. A grainy image you can argue about forever. But a decorated military pilot, backed by radar and infrared, describing the same impossible motion the camera recorded, that's a far heavier kind of evidence. And it's exactly the kind people overlook because it doesn't come with a dramatic alien face attached. Section 6. The number hiding in the paperwork. But the single most overlooked thing in all of this isn't a photo or a video at all. It's a number. In June of 2021, the government's intelligence office released a formal assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena covering well over a decade of sightings. They examined 144 separate incidents. And out of those 144, they could confidently identify exactly one: a large, deflating balloon. The other 143 were left officially unexplained. Sit with that ratio for a second. This wasn't a tabloid or a forum thread. This was the United States intelligence community admitting, in writing, that it had no solid explanation for the overwhelming majority of what its own pilots and sensors had recorded. Section 7. It keeps growing, and it didn't stop there. That's the part that should really get your attention. After that first report, the cases didn't taper off. They exploded. A dedicated Pentagon office was set up in 2022 just to track these things, and within about a year, the total number of catalogued reports had climbed past 500. Most of the new ones came straight from Navy and Air Force crews who saw something while doing their jobs. Officials credited the surge partly to a simple shift: pilots finally feeling free to report what they saw without being laughed out of the room. So the files everyone treats as a closed mystery from the past are actually a caseload that's still growing right now, faster than anyone can resolve it. Section 8. The Cold War Submarine Legend. Which brings us back to the one story that refuses to die, and that I have to be straight with you about. Circulating online is a set of black and white photographs tied to a Cold War nuclear submarine said to have been operating beneath the Arctic ice in 1971. The images supposedly show enormous cigar and disc-shaped objects looming over the frozen sea, some stamped with phrases like "official photograph" and "not to be released." To believers, those stamps suggest military origin and a long-buried cover-up. But here's the honest framing. This one has never been verified, and it sits in the same bucket as the body that went to Germany. A powerful, unsettling story that nobody has been able to confirm or fully knock down. The reason it sticks isn't proof. It's that you can't quite prove it didn't happen. So here's the takeaway nobody put on the thumbnail. The headline-grabbing alien bodies and crash saucers are mostly stories you can't pin down. Fascinating, but unverified. The genuinely strange material is quieter. 3 videos the government swears are real and can't explain, trained pilots describing impossible motion, and 143 unexplained cases that grew into more than 500. The truth in these files isn't a creature, it's the gap between what was recorded and what anyone can account for. And that gap is wider today than it's ever been. If a piece of this rattled you, hit that like button and tell me down in the comments which one you can't shake. The submarine photos, the tic-tac, or that 1 in 144 number. Subscribe if you want me to dig through the next batch when it drops, because there's always a next batch.